They were just like everyone else. They dreamed of going to the stars. But unlike everyone else,
What's going on here?
they discovered a way to get there.
You dreamt it, I built it, and it's our secret. It's pretty neat, huh?
Then, they took it one step further,
I christened the Thunder Road.
and it worked.
Look how fast we're going. Maybe we could go anywhere. Do you realize what it means?
Now, they're about to find out just how far it can go.
Let's face it, somebody's calling us.
Let's go.
All around the world.
Did you see what I saw?
Roll is the only place.
They're here.
All around the world. Rock and roll is the only place. You can hear those clouds jumping all night and all through the day.
Explorers.
We come in peace.
The adventure begins in your own backyard.
Right after Gremlins, I was sent by Paramount the script for Explorers, and I was made to read it in my office, and someone had to sit by with me and then take the script away. It was such a top-secret, hush-hush picture.
And because I had found Gremlins to be an extremely exhausting movie to make, I was sort of fooled myself into thinking, well, this is a smaller movie. It's just some kids building a spaceship in their backyard. I mean, how big could it be?
And I thought it was intriguing, and I also saw it foolishly as a little picture. Since it had 3 kids in it, I sort of thought of it as a kind of a nice little small movie, and then it ballooned into a giant, expensive movie because you can't have kids build spaceships and fly them around without spending a lot of money.
Much more expensive movie than Gremlins to make, and I wasn't even the first director on the picture. They had originally had Wolfgang Peterson was going to do the picture, but he wanted to shoot it in Bavaria. After Paramount got a look at the Never-Ending Story, they thought that the Bavarian background was a little too foreign for what they wanted, and they wanted to make the picture here. So I had just had this hit, so they came to me, and I signed on.
See, one thing about Joe is you all know Joe is a cartoon freak. I mean, there's not a animated piece of film around, I think, that he can't give you the vital statistics of.
One of my biggest influences was not only cartoons, but when I was a kid, I read a lot of Disney comics, and there's a guy named Carl Barks who wrote the Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck stories. And the style that those stories were told in, I think, is probably pretty similar to the style in which the movies that I've made have been told in. It's never been conscious on my part, but I do remember looking at Explorers and thinking that these 3 kids could be 3 little ducks, and it would be the same story. It could be an episode of a Donald Duck comic.
Oh, there's the driving.
What's left of it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's the Safeway. Oh, yeah.
There's my house. My dad's up. I wonder what he's doing.
It's taking us back to our point of origin.
No, it's not.
Feels up. Well, then what's holding us up? If someone finds out about this, they're going to try to take it away from us, and they can't do that because you dreamt it, I built it, and it's our secret.
When I first read the script, it had no real third act. Basically, the kids went to outer space, met some space alien kids, and played baseball, and then went home. So it was obvious that wasn't going to work. So in coming up with the third act, it ended up being the 2 acts were about the kids expecting to find God in space, and then when they get there, they find, in fact, a reflection of themselves, rather than the godlike E.T. character. And so it wasn't like an intentional, let's rag on the E.T. It just happened to be a more secular message than I think the audience was expecting.
River Phoenix and Ethan Hawke star in an out-of-this-world adventure.
Me, Ben.
Me, Tarzan. No!
It's intergalactic fun for the entire family in The Explorers.
The kids in the movie were wonderful. It was sort of like having kids in a way for a year, because you were sort of, the director becomes sort of the father figure, the big brother figure, and they all have their problems, and it was really kind of, it was nice to see that 13-year-olds hadn't changed that much, really. I mean, you know, given the different society that we live in, they really had all the same problems that I remembered, and the crew related to them very well, and it was a very up shoot, even though it was difficult.
It's interesting that when you make movies with kids in them, there are periods in Hollywood where there are a lot of great kids, and then there's periods where there's really hardly any kids. And so one of the things on Explorers was that we didn't want to use established kid actors. We wanted to find people who are natural. And it was a very long audition process. Our casting director, Gretchen Rennell, went to high school plays and summer camps and all sorts of places trying to find, you know, kids who were new. And one day, along with some kid who came to the audition, he had brought his friend, Ethan Hawke, who was not an actor. He was just a friend of this kid who came to an audition.
But
what scene is this?
you always ask that.
I know, but
usually the scene's over by the time you
yeah.
this is the scene that happens at 1:30. This is the one where...
You said 12:30.
I know, I lied. No, I thought it was 12:30 because Rob said he'd be done right away. He said, oh, they're practically done, he said.
And I saw him sitting out in the green room, and I said, gee, this kid's kind of cute. You think he could act? Let's bring him in and see if he wants to act. And he had braces, and he was very gangly, and he came in. He was very charming and funny. And we thought, well, you know, let's give him a shot. So we ended up doing extensive screen tests with various groups of kids. And Ethan managed to survive that process and actually get the lead role in the picture, even though he had absolutely no experience at all. And River Phoenix had done a TV series called Here Comes the Bride, which, you know, so he was a little bit more of an established actor. But again, I mean, these kids are only 13 years old. Just try to keep it fun on the set so that there's not a lot of pressure. And if the kids want to improvise, I encourage that, provided it's, you know, within the range of what has to happen in the scene. And I find that the more natural they can be, the more believable they are on screen.
Joe is especially adept at directing young actors, I find. And since I have a mental age of 14, I fit into that group.
Bob Picardo played this alien, and they finally came up with a concept that the aliens had learned about America and TV from their broadcasts, and so we decided to make them trivia experts.
In the original notion of the character, he spoke only lines that came from other people's mouths, like he would open his mouth and something said by Bugs Bunny or Ricky Ricardo. And I said to Joe that my feeling was that would get very tiresome to an audience very quickly, because how many voices are that inimitable that you want to watch a character through the final third act of a film speaking only as, you know, how many voices are that recognizable coming out of something that looks like a big green pickle? So I said, why don't I just do things, say things as if we've seen them on television, do various characters, do television commercials, do an insincere talk show host, do, you know, just all kinds of things that we've done on television. So he said, fine. Or fine. He said, yeah, okay. So you got to cut that part out. So otherwise this will be my last Joe Dante movie.
Well, he'll never work in one of my movies again.
I know you're out there. I can feel the popcorn.
I found in this movie that what people want to see when they go to the movies is they want to see brilliant, benevolent, godlike aliens that shine white lights on people's faces and make them inspired with awe. This was exactly what I wanted to get away from. I wanted to make a more humanistic movie than that, and that was basically what was rejected. The studio hated the movie. They had loved the movie until the preview, of course, as is their wont. And they opened it the weekend of the Live Aid concert when no one went to the movies. They had an ad which was black on black, and you couldn't tell what it was. It was a bicycle next to a garbage can or something. And basically they just threw it away. It was kind of a personal blow because it was a very personal movie. And I thought that up to that time it was the best directed movie that I had made.
Explorers was my favorite project for a while, but I don't know if it was ever my favorite film because it was a rough cut. I mean, the movie never got finished, and so the version that came out was sort of that's where we are today, and we're taking it away from you and we're putting it out. To me, it's like watching a rough cut. you know, it was a good script, but it didn't have a third act, and so our job was to try to give it a third act, and but they had a release date that they wanted, and the release date was awfully close. I mean, this was October, and they wanted it out in June or something, and it was a big special effects movie for which huge sets had to be built and all that, and plus it had kids in it, which means you can only work X number of hours a day. So it was a real labor-intensive project, and it has a lot of charm, and the kids were very charming, and I don't regret making the movie because I really loved the experience of making it. But in the end, it was extremely frustrating because not only didn't I get to finish the movie, but the day they released it was the day of the Live Aid concert, and it was like nobody went to the movies. And then they came back and said, "Well, nobody went to the movies." I said, "No, of course not. You released it on the wrong date, a date that we all killed ourselves to make, and now it's got a Live Aid concert on it." So, but the best because the studio had been, the people who hired me had left, and the new people had come in, and they didn't give a crap whether the picture made any money or not. They just needed to get it out there and, you know, get those cans to the theater, and if it bombs, we'll blame the other guys. So, it was an interesting studio politics lesson that I would rather probably not have had.
Hey, watch what you're doing. Shh, pass me the Phillips head. Don't like that. You need the ratchet. Here. I can't do anything with your hand in the way. It's stuck. Give me that thing. Here. Ouch! Watch it. Shh. Be quiet, man. If you bang like that, your mom's gonna wonder what we're doing. If this thing works, everyone's gonna wonder what we're doing. There. I think that's it. Yeah. Switch on the computer. Ready? Here goes.
From the director of Gremlins, Explorers, coming this summer from Paramount Pictures. The adventure begins in your own backyard.